Okay, there you go.
Are you up and recording now?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay. Well, one thing we need to talk about is right now we're going into winter, so you need to check on stores. You need to check for ventilation on your hive. And if you are low on stores, what you need to do is do some type of feeding, either dry sugar or make up a candy board. And I don't recommend putting any pollen patties on this time of the year, because right now, if you put pollen patties on, you're more likely going to lose a hive because you're going to stimulate the queen, and the queen's going to start laying, and you're just going to run out of food a whole lot faster. So with that, I know different people is probably in different parts of the country have questions they want to ask. And I done a video just the other day on how to cull out your old comb. Now's the best time to go through there and cull out comb. And I show on the video how to look at your comb for elongated cells, too much drone, or if it's old comb, now's the time to take it out. Don't put it in the hive in the springtime. Because if you pull that cleat bar up, you can look underneath, and I show you right on a video, there's little black specks there, and those are wax moth eggs. And all you're going to do is introduce that into a new hive or a nuke in the spring. So that being said, let's hear some questions about that, or if you have something in your area you want to figure out and maybe get my advice on it. And hopefully we can come up with a solution for you.
To start out, just to let everyone know, down at the bottom, if you hover down toward the bottom, you can click on chat, and that'll bring up a chat window, so you're able to type in there.
Okay, do I need to pull that up too?
It's up to you. I can read the questions for you if you want.
Okay, well, I pulled it up, and most people will probably ask a question, but there's probably a few we've noticed on a lot of different chats. We get people that come in the chat, well, they'd rather type one, they're camera shy, or just don't want to get audio.
Right.
You mean no one's got a question for me tonight? After all these months, everybody said they wanted to talk to me, and everybody's clamming up.
I'm not bashful. Hey, okay, run me through. First thing, spring. How we gonna make queen's egg list? Run me through the steps.
We're gonna do what?
We're gonna make queens early as we can in the spring. Run me through the steps.
All right, you're gonna make queens. You want to know how early you can make them?
I want to know the steps. I know about when. I just need to know the steps we're gonna do for queens. How would you go about making the most queens early?
The easiest way to do it, if you're buying some packages, and I try to show all my students that, is when you put the queen cage in your box, what we do here is we pull one frame of brood from a hive that's already existing over the winter. One frame of brood out of the center, you drop it into your 5-frame box, put your 4 frames of new foundation in there, then leave the queen cage with the corking both ends. And leave it for 7 days. What's going to happen is after the 4th day, 3rd or 4th day, the bees are going to think there's no queen in there. And what they're going to do is take that frame and they're going to draw a whole bunch of cells. So what you do is when you get ready to pull them cells, you replace that. Pull that frame out, replace it with a frame of honey, take the queen and just open the cage up and let her walk right on in. Those bees are going to accept her. Now you've already accomplished making cells, and then you've got your nuke already up and going.
Okay.
That is a whole lot more efficient than trying to wait until they draw out some new cells from another box. Someone typed into the microphone. Oh, Elaine Gary, the microphone ain't working.
They unmute yourself down the bottom left-hand corner.
Yeah, I see where people is typing in the right-hand side. Well, Mr. Davis, you ain't got one question in 3 months, huh? Well, there's Jerry. I know Jerry's got some questions of buying all that wood. You must have built all them boxes already.
Oh, we're still working on it. We've had a lot of things come up around the house, so we're working on it.
Good. Get as many built as you can and start working those feeders, getting those feeders going.
Yeah. I got 20 boxes built, and I got the wood cut to do 30 more, so just got to get them put together.
Good. You're planning on getting your packages early, or do you want to wait until the 1st of April?
Not early.
All right. As far as I know, what we're going to have is packages. I think it's going to be the 19th of March, and then the last week, and then the first week in April. We've got the first 3 loads set up right now, so I want to try to give all my students the first shot at it. And I've got students all over and pretty much going to get rid of the first load or 2.
Right.
Now, do you want to get all your packages on the first load, or you want to get half on the first and half on the next load?
I'll probably split them, because I mean, I got a few people that's wanting to buy some packages, so I'll probably split it in 2 different orders to help everybody else out.
Okay. All right. And what I haven't posted prices on my webpage yet, but my students, if they're buying 100 packages at a time, I'm going to sell it to them for $85 a package. And if they're buying less than 100, it'll be $90 a package.
Okay. Good deal.
And then nukes, if they're buying 25 or more from me, which I hope they don't. I hope they bring me some nukes so I can sell their nukes. But some of them, want to buy some nukes to get started. Most students usually buy 2 or 3, or they'll buy packages. Evening, Jamie.
Is them 3-pound packages done?
2-pound packages are what we usually put in. If you want 3s, we get the 3s. I believe we sold them last year for $115. We'll probably give $5 off if you buy at least 100 of them. But the main thing on packages is if you're feeding. Be sure to feed. If you feed 2-pound package, usually in the springtime will do fairly well.
Todd, did you get my reply back there on Facebook for your question you asked?
I don't know. For some reason, I'm getting a lot of echo. I'm not quite getting you.
Hey, Don, Elaine has a question here. Wants to know, she has a wax moth infestation and has been scraping the frames and putting them in the freezer. Is there anything else that you should do?
I personally don't freeze mine because we're not talking about 1 hive or 2. When we do a lot of hives, we're doing several hundred of them if we have wax moth. Wax moth is because the hive is actually swarmed out and got weak. What we do is scrape them down real good. We take an 8-penny nail and we put it through each of the holes on the side. And then we soak them in, we use a 5-gallon bucket or one of those Rubbermaid containers. And we soak them in bleach water for a minimum of 15 minutes. That's going to kill any kind of parasites. It's also going to bleach out your frame. It's going to make it look like a new frame because most of the beekeepers are trying to sell their stuff, so you don't want an old shabby looking frame in there. Now, I hope that answers the question, unless they've got, a little bit more they want to ask about it. A lot of people, they are under the impression if they throw their frames in the freezer, it's going to kill that wax moth. I'm not a firm believer of that because we basically sell nukes. And if a person comes up, you've got an old frame there that's already discolored from a year or 2. You've got it out of the freezer and you throw it in there. You've got 3 frames next to it, brand new. The first thing a new beekeeper is going to do is back up and say, there might be something wrong with that box. They're going to pass on it. And it's for your own safety. You're going to invest that much money. Make sure you got good frames in there. As cheap as frames is, if you've got real bad frames, use them for your own use. Buy new stuff almost every single year to sell for your nukes and that. It'll pay in the long run. Anybody else ready to jump in there? Jamie's ready to jump in. I know he is. Jamie's one of my students, and Joe's one of my students, and Jerry's one of my students. It looks like we've got at least 3 of them in here tonight. Unmute your microphone there, Jamie, and tell people if you learned something up here.
Oh, you can learn as much as you want to. I mean, you get overloaded if you're not careful. It's kind of like trying to drink out of a fire hydrant. I do want to, kind of give everybody a heads up. You need to be building equipment right now. You need to be getting your equipment lined up and getting everything together, because if not, you're going to be way behind. That's the one thing I learned last year, is you'll be way behind if you're not careful, and that's so easy to get behind. So build equipment now, get to building, and don't let up. Don't let up.
Let's see, we're starting to get a few questions here. Todd wants to know, let's see, how many drones you need to start with queens. If you buy packages, you're going to have more than enough drones in that package. But if you're going over winter, I would wait till you have plenty of drones visibly. And Stephen wants to know when I start classes. I usually start, depends on the person. Classes is best for people starting January, February, to learn to build first. Because if you can't build boxes, you're going to end up buying them, and that's too expensive. And the nice thing, the nice thing about January and February is you get in some people like it and some don't. Doing wax foundation. I mean, it's an art to make that foundation, and people think it's easy. I've done the videos on it, but hands-on, it does a whole lot better. And as far as coming here, I mean, I've got one student here. I mean, he'll certainly tell you he could do exactly what I tell you on the videos, and he was successful at it. And I told him he was wasting his money to come down here, but he insisted on coming down here and paying me. Now, I mean, it's just, the good thing about it, I guess, is you can put on your web page, you're one of my students, you got my stock, and man, you got your foot in the door everywhere you go. And there's not a whole lot of people that don't know of me or heard of me, and they know that I have gentle bees. They can see the women out here. Hardly anybody wears bee suits out here. Occasionally we get some that come in a full bee suit, but usually in about a half an hour, they're out of it.
There's another question on there. How much bleach do you use for a 5-gallon bucket?
If your frames is fairly dark, I use a 1 cup to a 5-gallon bucket. In just a standard 5-gallon bucket, I fill it about 3 inches from the top and add a cup of bleach to it. And usually 10 to 15 minutes, you get good results. Very good results. Okay. Let's see. Has anybody else got one? I guess that's all the questions.
I'll give you one.
Okay. Yeah.
This is Jerry. When you sell nukes, do you do any kind of frame exchange, or you just flat out just sell it and replace them on your own?
Well, that's going to be up to you. My personal feelings on it, if you've been here, if you work my hives, you notice everything is pretty much standard. And what I done about 8 or 10 years ago, maybe a little longer than that, I used to do frame exchange. And when you get busy out in the bee yard and somebody wants 20 nukes or 25 nukes and you don't have time to go check their stuff and you just have to take their word they brought it, you kind of glance out in the yard and you got these boxes out there. And I was running into people dropping off plastic. Different people manufacture frames and nothing matches. So for the cost, I buy my stuff, and I don't like to plug lots of bee companies, but I usually buy all my stuff from Man Lake. It's absolutely smooth, clear, very good stuff. And if you need to save money, right now is the time to get a hold of Man Lake and get a hold of one of their managers and buy a pallet of number 2s or number 3s. I bought a pallet 2 years ago for 25 cents a frame, with the idea that throw half of them away and I'm still ahead, but out of a pallet of 3,000, doubt if I threw 3 complete frames away.
Really?
I mean, sometimes it'd have a knot in them. Sometimes it'd have a little bit of sap, or it was a little bit rough. But as far as mine, I've never had bees complain. I'll use it for my own use. But in the last 5 years, I buy enough frames that I buy #1 stuff. It's all nice, all smooth. And not saying nothing bad about different bee companies, but one bee company, you take their frame, and if you bought some in 2014, and now you buy some in 2016, and you've got some parts left over, they're either going to be too tight on the end bars or too loose, or they don't match at all. And one company's frames does not match with another one.
Right.
That's the problem you run into. So being cheap on some things is good, and some things it's not. Buy good frames and stick with it. Whether you use company A or company B, buy all of them and stay with that company and hope they fit. They fit good. But as far as Man Lake, I can't complain. You get free shipping, which a lot of companies won't offer you. And one thing to do is tell them you're a commercial student right off the bat. Set you up a commercial account, and you can go get a little bit better discount. Same thing with your essential oils. If you're going to go organically and treat your bees and use wintergreen or spearmint, and if you're going to do it enough, you're going to have to buy enough in volume to get anything. I buy my stuff from Loran Oils, and if you tell them that you're a beekeeper, normally they give you about a 10% discount. Tell them I sent you, and you'd be surprised. They usually give you a little extra. I mean, I send a lot of people there, and there's a lot of people want me to refer them to them. I like their oils. I've never had problems with them. They've always treated me fair. You might check around, get cheaper oils. There's 2 types of oils. There's one is a natural oil, and then there's another synthetic oil. Your synthetic oils are basically for aromatherapy. They don't do any good for bees.
I'll tell you him, when you Loran Oils, once you make your first order and tell them you're a beekeeper and Don sent you, when you pull their webpage up, it automatically transfers your prices over to it. They show different prices than what they show everybody else.
Yep.
Learned that out. I'm about ready to start melting them down, Don.
There you go. Now, you going to sell that, or are you going to make foundation?
I ain't got nothing to sell. Probably got 50 or 60 pounds. I got to make wax.
Well, you see that block of wax you got there, that is graded. I've done a video on grading of wax. That wax there is probably worth, if you've got no chemical in it, $20 to $25 a pound. And that looks like it's probably, that was a 5-gallon bucket or a 2.5-gallon.
That's a 5-gallon bucket.
If that's a 5-gallon bucket, then that's probably 7 pounds of wax there.
Well, there's more than that. Every bit of that. Yeah. I got a few of them hanging around here.
Okay.
Couple more questions here, Don. Another question on when in the spring do you start running your classes?
Yeah, Gary wants to know if you run a colony empty. I kind of just, it's kind of confusing there. What I'm doing when I'm setting packages up is I start them out in a 5-frame box. They'll expand out and draw the comb better. But as far as starter strips, 3 years ago, we switched over to using nothing but starter strips. Simply because there was so much honey coming in and we was feeding heavy to build bees, that the frames would start drooping down and fall out because of the hot weather. So if you used a starter strip, they actually built the wax a whole lot thicker and stronger from the top down. See, we feed even on a honey flow. We pump sugar to them. We're making bees, what we're making. We're not in the honey business. And when they won't take sugar water no more, then you got a massive honey flow on.
And then Todd's asking when you'll have your first load of bees.
What did you say?
Todd is asking when you'll have your first load of bees.
The first load of bees will be about the 19th, weather permitting, in March. And the bees need to be paid for before you pick them up. Todd knows that. He's bought bees here before. And people that don't know me and haven't bought packages from me, and they bought packages from other people, I'm sure all my students can attest to, there won't be a quarter of a cup or 2 or 3 tablespoons of dead bees in these packages. They are shook 6 hours before you're going to get them. They're not shook 2 to 3 days and you've got a ½ inch to an inch of dead bees in that cage. So the bees and the condition of the bees is important when you're just getting started. And you know, there's a lot of people selling bees. There's a lot of prices for bees out there. But here's the thing to look at. If you're a new beekeeper and you're not used to bees, you don't want bees that, you know, you're going to get a good price. They're cheap. If the guy that's selling to you comes out in a full bee suit, he can't even work his own bees. And a new beekeeper is already a little leery of the bees. So buy good stock, whether you buy it from me or buy it anybody else. Check them out. Ask other people what their experience was with that breeder that's selling bees. I haven't advertised since 1970, and I stay covered up. And I try to teach the same thing, principles, to my students. If you got a nuke there and you're helping a customer with a nuke right at my bee yard, if you're not happy with that nuke yourself to buy it, then don't sell it to somebody else, because it's just going to come back to haunt you. Honesty in this business here goes a long ways.
Well, as a student, Don, I'm going to put my link on here. littlebitshoneybees.com's up and running.
There you go. Did I add on or your web link on page? Does it seem to get you some business? Get you some curiosity or something going there?
I haven't yet. I just got it published today. It's linked to my YouTube channels and my Facebook, so all that information's on there. So guys, look and enjoy.
I'll bet you Tom hasn't seen those bee buses. Hold the bee bus up. Let Tom see what a bee bus looks like.
Let me see here. I'm seeing the camera. You
Yeah,
put
I've yet to see the plastic ones.
put the
Have you
queen.
seen the plastic ones?
I haven't.
Do it twin queen cages, and of course the can of syrup. Of course, down at Don's, I had to get a couple of these. I don't know what I'm gonna use them for yet. I had to have a couple.
Well, Wade is one of my students, and he works for the post office, and he's got bees, and I try to let my students ship back packages and nukes for me, and he really likes those plastic containers. I'm old-fashioned. I like the wood ones. It's just easier for me to work. The plastic ones, you've got to have your hive tool there and get that plastic little end piece there open just right. They have an advantage that one shake and all the bees is out at one time in the box. Where your wooden box, you got to kind of bump the box back and forth.
Hey, I got a question for you, Don. I come down the 19th of March. Might be a little early for me here.
Probably would be. I'd probably wait till into April. You know, you're going to have to wait and see what the weather's going to do. That's why I don't even take orders. My phone has been ringing pretty regular here for nukes and for packages. And I tell people, you know, I take my orders in February because I don't know what the weather's going to do. It could change drastic in the next month, 6 weeks.
Yeah. My question being, can I take get a package, say it was too cold, open them up, and put them in, just set the whole package down in the bottom of a nuke box, and then put frames above them, let them come out on their own into the frames, cover them back, you know.
What you're saying is you're going to put the whole package and let the bees climb out?
Yeah.
Well, there's people on YouTube that does that, said that. My experience with that is, if right, especially where you're at, you put that package in there, you got that pheromones of the queen already in that package. So if the temperature drops, those bees are going to cluster up in the corner where that pheromone is. And then if you got that queen up above between 2 frames, she's going to freeze because there won't be enough bees up there. I've seen situations where just about 90% of the whole package was still in the cage, never moved because the weather dropped. Take the time. If you look at the videos, I putting packages in in good weather and in cold weather, because we get a lot of people from up north order packages. You know, a lot of them even not even order them from me. They order in October, November, December. They don't know what the weather's going to be. And when the packages go up, it's starting to snow out there and they don't know what to do with the bees. That was the one reason I done the video, how to put a package in when the weather gets cold. And it's how to put your queen cage above the frames instead of between the frames. If you put the queen cage between the frames with warm weather, there's only 1.5 inches there of bees can get around that cage. But if you put it across, 90 degrees across on the top of the frames, those bees will ball right up to the top, make a big cluster all the way around that queen cage, keep that queen warm, and you won't lose the queen. That's why I try to do those videos.
Yeah. Is a 2-inch shim high enough above that box to let that in cold weather? I got 2-inch shim made go on top of the nuke box. That'd be enough. I set the queen cage on top from the cluster around her.
Well, you want to put it, you know, if you're going to have cold weather, I wouldn't put that feeder on top. I'd set an empty box over the top and just set the can upside down.
Well, don't talk about the feeder. I got a 2-inch shim made.
Yeah.
Is that enough for the bees on above the nuke box from the cluster around her? And just March, it could be 80 degrees here in March, but it could be 15 too.
Yeah, well, you're not going to know until you look at it, the weather, and see.
Yeah.
I can tell Jamie's got an answer for you right there.
Okay.
He's processing overtime.
There's another question down here about your package bees. After the 19th of March, will you have them every 2 weeks or so?
Say that again.
After March 19th, will you have bees available every 2 weeks?
I usually have bees available all summer. And we shake packages here at the schoolyard. And we have students out here shaking them in May, April, May, and June. But we get our bees out of South Georgia. So we go down there and we shake our bees. South Georgia, we're 6 to 7 weeks ahead of what we are right here. And the price of the bees is basically the same. You can see the bees, you can shake them, and a half an hour later, you got them right from our hive into a package and into your hive. So the bees are as fresh as you can get them. Guess nobody else is going to jump in there and ask me no question. Well, Tommy, what's these questions you've been stacking up?
Being from Detroit, yeah, right now we're still really warm, which is kind of concerning because I know the bees are starting to go through some of their stores.
Yeah, they'll go through the stores when it's warm. That's why, you know, I wouldn't suggest putting a pollen patty on them. You got to watch. Lift the back of the hive up. The back of the hive is going to tell you how much weight you got in that box. If it's extremely light, then, you know, put some heavy sugar water on them.
Okay.
Have you checked them for weight or if they got enough stores?
I'll be getting out there again this weekend to check on them.
Well, you know, you don't have to open that hive. Just lift the back up. If you've got weight, you've got weight there, then stand in the front of the hive and look for pollen. If they got some pollen coming in, any amount at all, as a rule, you got a queen in there and she's laying. If there's no pollen coming in and the hive is light, then I would go in there and check it. Right now, November, December, people are killing more bees because they're worried about everything. You know, you get in there and you bump that queen or you damage the queen, and a lot of beekeepers are wearing gloves. So when they pick a hive up or the frame, they don't have the feeling there. And if they bump that queen slightly, it's damaged and you can lose that hive over the winter. And we was talking, Jamie and I was talking about people that double their hives up with the paper, combining hives. I have not combined a hive in 45 or 50 years. To me, combining a hive is backing up. Even if you put a piece of newspaper in there, you run the risk of both queens fighting and killing each other. Second is you create so much area in there for the bees to heat, the hive won't make it. That's why a 5-frame nuke will go through the winter 10 times better than a 10-frame double D. Because you live up in New York, and most people up there in New York probably live in a 2-story house. If they don't use rooms up above in their second story, the average person is going to block them off to keep the heat below. That's why we put bees in 5-frame boxes with a feeder on it. It keeps them combined. They use less resources going through the winter.
Tom, you say you're from Detroit?
Yeah, yep.
About what time of the year, early in the spring, do you have your nukes ready for sale if you overwinter nukes and make splits off of them?
I haven't been selling.
Okay.
Right now
that's
I've got 25 hives going.
Yeah. My big learning curve this year is when I can have things ready to sell coming out of winter. I know it all depends on the weather, but
yeah,
right now I have a big idea.
Winter here can go well into May. It all depends on the year.
Yeah.
How much was nukes going for last year where you live in New York?
I'm in Michigan. I was actually driving down to Ohio to buy them. I believe I paid $115 for them for a 3-pound nuke of Russians.
Huh. A nuke that had 3 pounds of bees in it?
Yes.
A package.
It usually
a package, I'm sorry.
Package, okay.
3 frames of bees. Is that what you say?
It was a package.
Oh, a 3-pound package then. Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Because I've got guys that come down from Ithaca, New York, and they're buying nukes, and they're selling them up there for $250, $275 for a nuke.
Yeah, I believe a nuke up here goes for $175.
Yeah. Well, Matt is right up there above Joe, and Matt is getting $175 there for nukes, and packages, 2-pound packages, I think he's getting $140 for them. But, you know, what you have to judge is they're basically my bees. They're not, you know, bees. I don't even recommend people, unless they're going to set up for honey, to get Russian bees, because Russian bees are very aggressive. And they're very hard to keep on the frame when you're inspecting. If you open the hive up, they want to all be up in the air. I mean, I used to run Russians. I run different breeds, and I run more of a mutt type bee now that is more survivable. It's gentle. And as you look at my videos, you can see I have ladies out there with shorts and blouse, no bee suit. And when I had Russians here, 2 weeks after I got Russians, I was out there getting rid of all the Russians, squeezing them and putting different queens in there, because 200, 300 yards away, they'd come out and be very aggressive in the bee yard.
I got another question for you, Don. I've heard guys tell me that you can't run Cornelians in the same yard as your Italians because the Italians will kill them, just run them out and rob them to death. Any truth to that?
No.
Because I like to get some Cornelians just for the drone population.
If you mix your genetics, make sure where you get your bees at that they're fairly gentle bees to start with. But if you can run Carniolans, Russian, and a little bit of Caucasian. Caucasian is a very good bee. It's great for making comb honey. A lot of beekeepers don't like Caucasians because they glue up everything. But the gluing of the hive, I think, is a benefit.
That's a good
Russian
thing.
bee, if you can put up with it, it's too aggressive. But if you've got out yards and you're in honey, cross them with Italians or mix up some Caucasian and some Carniolan. Now there's the red line of the Carniolan and there's that black line. Sue Colby come out with that darker line, and I like it because they're pretty good. Ray Alvarez out of California, yeah, he's got some pretty good Carniolans.
I actually ordered 3 of your queens that I mixed into the yard there. So
If you're going to mix bees, you know, you're taking a chance, you know, until you know It usually takes you about 5 or more years to recognize traits in the bees. You have to get something that what you want to work. I don't own a bee suit, so I'm not going to go out there and have bees that eat me up, because I have students that come here that's never seen bees. I have videos of me out here putting 10-year-old kids' hands on bees that's never been around a beehive, and they don't sting them. I want bees that you can work. If you buy something and you can't work it, they're just going to fly off and, you know, swarm, and you're going to lose them. Bees are too expensive to go through that.
I actually got one of those Purdue queens, the ankle biters, and they've been pretty gentle. I don't know how they do on the mites. They're supposed to control the mites. We'll see.
I don't go by a lot of the propaganda that people put out there that their bee is a super bee, it's real mite resistance, it's this, it's that. You know, I always believe the proof is in the pudding. I'll buy someone's bees and I'll try them for a while and see what they do, because not everybody's a bee breeder. You know, a lot of people can keep bees, but what they're raising and getting for you is something you can't handle or you can't keep alive.
Well, we'll see how they winter. Like I say, I just bought one. Purdue talks like they're great. We'll see.
Well, Tom is lucky. He's only got 6 or 7 stings in the time that he's kept those bees. He's very lucky. I work with a guy.
That was last year alone.
He runs Russians, and he's probably been stung at 100 to those numbers. And he wears a full bee suit. When they run him out of his bee yard, you know they're strong. There's no sense in having bees that you can't work, really.
My 10-year-old granddaughter works mine in shorts and tank top.
Yeah. Well, you know, I run across a lot of beekeepers with a lot of different experiences, and I run across people that have that saying that if the bees are real mean, the more aggressive they are, the more honey they make. That's a bunch of baloney. A bee is a bee. A bee's going to carry a certain amount of honey, and that's it. And just because of the genetics, they're not going to work any harder. The only thing that I found anywhere near that you can compare is Russians and Carniolans are different than Italians and Caucasians in the respect that your Russian will and your Carniolan will slow down during a dearth of pollen. If there's not enough pollen coming in, that's the thing that regulates the queen. The Italian bees are stupid. No matter what's coming in, if there's a little bit of pollen and some nectar coming in, they lay like crazy. And that's why most Italian hives starve out in the wintertime. You have to kind of crossbreed and get the best of each world in it and hope you get something good. And, you know, if people are thinking of breeding their own bees, the biggest thing that I run into out here at my bee yard, and people come here to learn, is have to uneducate people. And now Joe's been in my yard, and Jamie's been in my yard, and Jerry's been in my yard. I don't have what they consider a drone congregational area. And all your breeders, that's all they're talking about. You got to have that drone congregational area. And I'm not going to explain how I explain to my students because I'll burn up a lot of time here. But, you know, if you got drones in the back of your property and you got some in the front, they're going to find those queens. You know, so don't believe a lot of things people tell you. Just because they got a few letters after their name, you know, doesn't mean they know a lot more. And the advice you get from some people sometimes sets you wrong. And I, you know, I don't get me wrong. You know, some people think that maybe I'm a master beekeeper or something. There's nowhere near a master beekeeper. I've been keeping bees and making a living at it for many years. And I got the stupid bees that can't read. So even if I had a diploma, they ain't going to do me no good because my bees can't read and write. But, you know, what defines a beekeeper is bees that you can keep alive from one year to the other and you can make a living at, not all the diplomas and stuff you get.
There's another. Oh,
Jamie's just waiting to get in, I can tell.
There's another question here from Elaine. What is your opinion on oxalic acid drizzle on December 21st?
Well, oxalic acid is a very good treatment for bees. As far as the drizzle, I back off on it. I don't use it. I don't recommend it. When you're going to drizzle oxalic acid, you're going to kill brood. You're going to contaminate honey. If you do the vaporizing of oxalic acid, you can do oxalic acid with the vaporizer anytime bees are flying. You can do it in the wintertime. If you see quite a few bees flying, you can do it, but use common sense. You don't want to go out in January or December when it's 30 degrees out there. You're going to have some guidelines. About 55, 60 degrees, you know enough bees are flying. You don't want to break up a cluster. But your big commercial beekeepers, they're using these garden sprayers, and they're mixing up strong oxalic acid and just spraying them real good. They don't really care how many bees they kill. They don't care about the honey. They don't care about a lot of things. They're looking at bottom line. So the vaporizing, you're using about a half a teaspoon to a hive, and it's vaporizing. It's spreading off through that hive, so you're not going to contaminate anything. You're not going to kill no brood. And it's the cheapest way to kill mites and keep a hive alive. And basically, you can buy vaporizers or you can make them yourself. I've been selling them since about '92. I got an old machinist. He makes them. He's a retired machinist. Makes them, and I sell them for him. If you use the oxalic acid, the vaporizer, and you do it a minimum of once a month, you're not going to have a hive that dies on you. The only way it's going to die is it completely starved. It's not going to die from mites. And if you keep mites under control, you're going to keep a lot of other things under control. And why I'm saying that we sell that vaporizer, I know it's coming up Christmas, and this is recording and it'll be up on YouTube. We do sell through our webpage. We sell our CDs or our DVDs. I'm talking CDs. You can tell how old-fashioned I am. I'm still using an 8-track. But we do have DVDs to where you can pick up and learn things. They're good for stocking stuffers. We also do Skype one-on-one. If you feel like you don't want to be on the air and you want to talk to me, ask me questions one-on-one, we do Skype. Just call me or send me an email and set it up. Eliza is taking care of my web page. If you order our plans for a high top feeder or our boxes or supers, all the things you have a problem, you send him an email, he'll jump right back on it. Because there's a lot of people like me that's not familiar with downloading stuff. Now, I'm not very computer smart, so that's why I have to have someone help me.
Don, when I come down to go to school, you told me to go home and save my money. The one trick you taught me on the queens, I picked up over $500 worth of queens off the ground this summer.
Well, see, if you put that on YouTube, people would not believe that.
Absolutely picked up over $500 worth of queens.
You know, there's a lot of things that a lot of people have never seen or heard until they come and walk through my bee yard. You know, I'll tell students right over it. I hear a swarm up there and I'm not even looking up. Or I hear them on the ground, and people can't believe that. It's just, you work bees that long, you're going to learn a lot of tricks.
I come home tonight and stand at the corner of the house and look in the sky above the bee yard, and I say, well, I go in and get a queen. I got a queen out there running around on the ground someplace. I don't even have to go any further.
Got money laying all over the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Don.
Yeah.
Do you graft queens, or do you mainly let them make their own?
What do I prefer, or do I do it?
Which do you do?
I'll do whatever it takes to make money. But do I? If you're asking me, what type of queen do I want for the best queen? Natural cut cells. I mean, you know, I have people come here and they say they want to learn grafting. And To me, learning grafting, all you're doing is you're copying one genetic, one color of bee, one race. You're just like a RoboCop. You're just one after another. You're stamping them out. And you're not getting a good bee. If you let the bees pick the bees that they want to turn into queens, you have a far superior one. And grafting is not the biggest thing out there that you want to get into. Grafting, for the majority of people, just like if you wanted to learn grafting, the first thing I'd ask you is, how many queens can you use a week? Can you use 10 or 20? If you can use 10 or 20 and build those boxes, then cut and cells out. That's the way to go. If you want 100 or 500 a day, then graft. But you're not going to have as good a queen. And as far as queens go, I'm not bragging on my queens, but I have queens that I run 4 and 5 years. I do not replace queens every year unless students get out here and, bump them, kill them, or whatever. And, a lot of people want to tell you, replace your queen every year. You don't replace the motor in your car because they got a sale down the end of the road. You buy a brand new motor for half price. The motor's working fine. So why replace it, I mean, there's a lot of topics that we can talk about, and I'll give you my opinion. I'm giving you the opinion on my side because I make a living at what I do. And what I'm doing here is trying to teach people not to make the same mistakes that I went down and done. Listening to the experts out there. I listened to experts 25, 35 years ago, and I lost bees because I'm listening to experts. And then when you do exactly what they tell you, they laugh in your face, point at you and say, you stupid, you actually done that? I go out of my way to make a better beekeeper out of everybody, believe me. I spend more free time teaching the person. You don't need to spend dollars. Use your head, use common sense. If it don't make sense, just because someone says this is the latest new gadget, I mean, we could go through all the gadgets that's in that bee supply book. The push-up stick, the little push-up cones that they have, the ice cream bars you push up. Some guy decided to put a queen in there, and now you got a thing you can mark queens with. And these clips that people put in their hair for the girls put their ponytails up, that was the queen catcher they come up with. And when they come out with that, I sold more queens that first year than ever because people was popping them out of their fingers and cutting the queen's head off. And, I've got people come here, want to learn how to raise queens, and the first thing they got is a pair of gloves on. And I might sound to a lot of people, I'm being smart, but it's common sense when I tell you, the day you can pick your nose with boxing gloves, that's the day you can catch queens with gloves. So learn to handle queens without gloves. That's, how I try to train my students. And even if they come here and they say, I can't catch queens, you'd be surprised, in 2 weeks they're catching queens. Okay. Todd wants to know if we cage, how long you cage queens, the workers will feed them. Well, banking is a way to put queens in storage for 3 to 4 months. And we do that occasionally back to back in queen cages. Sometimes they're good for 7 or 8 months, but queens have ovaries. So the longer you stop that queen from laying, that queen might not start back laying as efficiently as she done before you caged her. So I usually like to sell queens as I catch them, and I don't like to stockpile them, if that answers your question.
Well, I agree with Jerry on one thing. You better, if you're thinking about getting the bee business, you better be building. If you think you need 100, you better build 300.
That's the whole thing. You're not going to build enough.
That's all I've been doing the last 6 weeks, building.
Hey, Joe, you haven't built enough.
I know it. I know it. I started out last year with 12 and I built 150 nukes all the way up to feeders and everything. I've got another 100 or plus out there right now in the garage I'm putting together. It still ain't enough.
It's like Wade Dale says, it's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah, but you got at some point you got to say enough's enough, and that's enough money you're going to make. Don't go any higher.
You see what you're in for now, Jerry?
Yeah.
Hey, one thing real quick, Don. With everybody watching the videos and everything, I encourage you guys, even if you've watched a video once, go back and watch it again. There is so much in those videos. You're listening, but start watching what Don does in the videos, because there's lots of little nuggets. I mean, if you'll go back through stuff and listen and just watch, I mean, you get so much out of it. I mean, there's little things that just will start popping out at you. I watched a lot of videos and things like that, but I'm going to tell you, you know, even watching videos, though, if you get a chance to go to Don's, you know, because in all honesty, you get a lot out there in the bee yard that, you know, you see it on the video, but it doesn't click until you're actually present in there. And so it's got me going back and actually just slowing down and not going just video to video to video, but actually hanging out on a video and watching it 3 or 4 or 5 times. Watch where he's placing his hands, what he's doing, and what he's really saying. And you'll get a lot out of those videos. So, I mean, that's been my experience. Just start paying really close attention, because, you know, the details is where it's at. I mean, that's where you start really picking up stuff, too, you know, that's going to save you down the road. So that's just my 2 cents worth real quick. I've been thinking about that, and, you know, I've got a lot of videos I still need to go back and watch again and again and again. And, you know, Joe, you'll never have enough equipment.
No, I know. Hey, to tap on what you're saying there, Jerry, there's one video Don has done where he cuts a clean shell, puts it in there. And you really can't see how he puts it in there. But when I first started doing it, I pushed the hole in there, and I tried to angle the queen towards the other frame. You can't tell it's sideways. I don't know how many guys I've straightened out on that. So guys, maybe that helps somebody. You put the queen parallel with the frame, the stuff part, not in that hole facing the other frame.
Well, one thing that a lot of people don't see or don't understand is when you come here, I tell every student, and I'm not making things up as I go along. I tell them, if you follow me around and do exactly what I'm doing, you're not learning nothing. You come here, if you make mistakes, you're going to learn. And I don't get mad. I've never yelled at anybody. If you make a mistake, that's what you're here for. I want to watch you work. And it's the simplest things. You pick up a hive tool and you open a box. I'm going to sit in front of the box, or I'm going to sit off to the side. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to point out 10 or 15 things to make you a better beekeeper. And hopefully that I'm not upsetting anybody. When you get a beekeeper that's opened boxes up for 10 years and you tell him he's using his hive tool wrong, and then he gets all upset, and you got to slow him down and say, look, now this is the reason that we do it this way. It's the simple things like using a sharp object in there, popping a frame, getting a nick, getting a little piece of that wood sliver stuck up, and then you get it up under your fingernail and you get an infection. You can't catch queens. So what I do is go down the road and I start from the hive tool. Make sure you don't get hurt with that hive tool. Most hive tools that's sold is so sharp you can shave with them. You don't need that. You need a hive tool. You can move the frames apart.
I got another comment to make. For all the students that's here, I've been to Don. I don't know how many students is here. And for people that ain't a student, there's different ways to make splits at different times of the year. Believe me. Spring, you can buy 1 frame splits and load that with 4 frames of drawed comb. Things are fine. And it gets June. You better not put any more frames in that box than the bees can cover. You're going to have hive beetles, and you're going to lose a lot of nukes. Been there, done. Been there, done that. You didn't tell me that, Don.
You can't learn but so much at a time, Joe.
I know.
You have to experience it.
I lost over 80 hives because of that. Made 60 splits in 2 weeks and lost 80 some.
But you see, I tell people you can make a 1 frame split. You've done it. You've been successful. The only thing you didn't hang around is you got to adjust it during the summer and then towards fall.
You sure do.
That's why the videos come in handy. Then you come down here and see. It's like you learn something on my brick system. There's a lot of little things, you know.
Well, the thing is, I was in my hives every day, every week, maybe sometimes twice a week. But I was looking to splits the frames that had bees on it. I wasn't looking at the drawed out frames, and the hive beetles infested all the other combs that I wasn't looking at. And then they jumped all over in a matter of 2 days onto everything. Whew. Don't even want to talk about it, guys.
Yep.
Destroy you.
That's why coming here, spending a day with me or a week, I mean, if you come take classes from me and come once a week or once a month, I mean, you get different times of the year. We do different things. That's why I try to tell students, try to come 4 different seasons, see how things are run. It's just like right now, my bee yard is a whole lot emptier now than it is in the springtime, because I'm in the business to sell bees. If my boxes was full, then you could turn around and look at me and say, well, what you're doing works somewhat, but you can't sell your bees. Now you're stuck with all them bees. I sell them fast as I can make them, and I'm trying to teach that to every student that comes here. And what happens is you get started and you get doubtful that you can sell your own bees, and you start to sell your bees a little bit. And then pretty soon you're selling your stock down so low you don't have enough to keep your stuff going. Everybody goes through that same thing.
Yep, I can agree with that. I told one person, Don, last week that I was going to have your bees. Next thing I know, I got 10 people calling me wanting to get on my list.
There you go. So don't worry, you can't sell the bees. Well, has anybody else got questions? We're running just about time to start shutting down here. We're probably going to do 2 or maybe 3 chats December, because we've got Christmas coming up. And in January, we'll probably do 3. We're going to have to figure out how we can schedule this stuff, because as summer coming up closer and closer to spring, my time becomes harder and harder to get. And I want to keep enough of people coming on these chats to where we can get enough information out. And it's just like each of my students. By you getting up on these videos, it's going to help sell your stock and get your name going out there.
Jeremy, what's your company's name?
Who?
Jeremy?
My company name or Jerry's?
Jerry's. I'm sorry.
My wife hadn't come up with a name yet.
What about Jeremy? What's yours? Can you hear me, Jeremy?
You talking to me?
Yeah. Well, what's your company's name?
We're Fork Mountain Bees.
Where are you located?
We're in North Alabama. I'm about an hour outside of Chattanooga and about an hour outside of Huntsville. About 2 hours north of Birmingham. We're in the top corner of the state.
All the way north of you guys.
You're way north of me. Yeah. Hey, real quick, just touching on something that Don was talking about, summer coming up. Guys, I'm telling you, time really starts flying, especially, you guys that are just now really getting up and going with the bees. You really need to be working on equipment right now. I can't say that enough. You really need to be working on equipment, because spring will be here before you know it, and you will already be behind. And you guys that have been keeping bees for a little bit, you know what I'm talking about with doing that. You know how far you can get behind, and it's a snowball effect. I mean, and there's nothing like sitting there and watching bees fly off because you ain't got equipment to make your splits and keep stuff going. I mean, that's money that's just flown away. So you really need to make it and build as much equipment, boxes, feeders, and do it all now. And that another thing too is go ahead as you can, start looking for sugar and getting the sugar stockpiled for spring, and try to do it now. Don't wait until you get up on it, because you'll have so much going on. Do it now. I wish, I was in a different place last year because I didn't know all this. First, like I told Don, first time I opened a box of bees, I didn't have anybody with me. And I've learned so much since the first of the year going over to Dawn's that, I mean, it's, you know, you better get to building equipment because you're already behind. So that and the sugar, go ahead and start getting everything lined up and everything ready to go. Because if not, I mean, you'll be chasing your tail trying to catch up with stuff, and there's not enough hours in the day once you get behind. There's not. That's, you know, that's my thoughts.
Now, Stephen is asking, is there any minimum number of hives before you start selling nukes? Now, I believe I just touched on that because a lot of beekeepers, Jamie will tell you, you know, you're worried about money if you're going to make it. You start selling some of your nukes right away. They sell faster than you can keep up with the stuff. So get enough stock that you can sell some. You're not going to have a problem selling anything. You can ask any of my students. And Robbie is just got in here. I guess you're going to ask a question before we get out of here, Robbie? Don't be bashful. You're just going to sit and watch, huh? Okay, I scared them off.
Hey, Don, talking about that real quick on the as far as like building up your numbers, you know, what's your minimum? Really, it's like I told you, you know, when we were talking the other day, you really need to set aside X amount that you won't touch, that all you're going to do is just work out of, you know, and that you'll sell down to that, but you don't go below that. You really need to figure out what your number is that you're not going to go below, and then really stick to your guns on that. And sometimes it's hard because when people are coming at you and they're wanting bees, it's hard to turn the money down. That's the reason I'm saying, you know, you need to build as much equipment as you can to keep stuff going. Buy as many packages as you can and stuff those boxes and get those bees going and throw the sugar to them. I mean, the sugar really, guys, is an investment in those bees. It's an investment in what you've got going on with them to grow them out. Don't think of it as just a cost. I know it's so expensive, but you figure if it takes, you know, $20 to $30 worth of sugar to get a nuke built out, how much is that? 30. If you it takes 30 pounds, how much does that 30 pounds cost versus what you're making on it? Spend the money and feed the sugar to them. Throw the sugar, I mean, as much sugar at them as you possibly can, and get those suckers going and building up. And don't. I mean, I know things are tight with a lot of people. I mean, they're tight with us. I'm going to be honest with you. You know, but you know, the thing is it's an investment in those bees to keep them growing and going. And once you really get into the flow of doing it, I mean, you need to really be putting the sugar to them because it's going to make all the difference. So
big difference. And, you know, I try to tell everybody coming up here too that, and my students will be, you know, the first one to tell you, where can you take and buy a package for such a, you know, $90 and triple your money in 3 weeks? I mean, and if you hang on to it, you triple your money, plus you got your original investment. If you put the sugar to them and you sell that original investment 10 times before the summer. I mean, it's easy. You can't get any easier than that.
That ain't easy now, Don. There's a lot of work in it. Don't tell me it's easy.
No.
Can you do it? Yes.
It's not rocket science. I didn't say it wasn't labor intense.
There
It's
you
not
go.
high tech, you know, rocket science. All right. I guess what we're going to do is we're going to get out of here. Want to thank Tom for hosting us tonight, and we're using Elijah's program here, so we're indebted to both of them. And if we couldn't keep them going here, you know, we'd be lost. So we'll let Tom cut the thing off because he's got control of the whole thing. He can even throw me out. I'm a guest here tonight.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Nice chat, guys.